must be properly prepared for his study.
Let's see, are we live yet? Alright, there we go. Okay, it is Friday, April 12th, 2024 at 6:05 p.m. And here we are in Fallout 76, doing the Mothman Equinox event again this
but our work is far from
week or something like that. So, I made an announcement to my folks in the Discord that I'm going to be pushing off the Mothman Cult video temporarily. Instead, I'm going to be working on the Point Pleasant lore video. Simply because there are a couple of events that I need to finish for the cultists outside of the Mothman Equinox. And along with that, there's a cultist-related light ally that you can purchase. Like, it was part of a previous season that I just was not doing all that extra content for. So I need to buy it now for 4,000 gold bars, which I do not currently have. And I'm working on getting that stuff together. But yeah, so for the moment, I'm going to be producing the Point Pleasant lore video first. Now, I've also watched the entirety of the Fallout TV series, the first season, obviously, and I'm going to be producing a full series of videos covering each episode individually, then the series as a whole, talking about the different things that they show in it, the new lore mistakes that they made, and also just discussing just the episodes themselves, the characters that we get to see and stuff like that. So, kill these cultists. So, I'm just going to say my general verdict overall, without any sort of spoilers, is that I really enjoyed the show. There were definitely lore mistakes that they made, and potential lore mistakes that they made, and one of them is a very major potential lore mistake that they made. Now, based on what we've heard from the developers, they did not make the mistake. But it's one of those things where it's like what it's okay, I'll just come out and say it again without spoiling anything. It's something on a chalkboard that potentially screws with the timeline fairly dramatically. And it's related to the timeline of things in Fallout New Vegas. And if there was already a group that was mad at Bethesda, it's the people that are Fallout New Vegas supremacists. And so, yeah, they are definitely mad right now. Again, from what we've heard from the developers in the aftermath of this, they have not decanonized Fallout New Vegas, but I still need clarification on what they did with the timeline. Come on, there we go. Okay, so, and if anybody's interested, we can discuss, the very least, some of the first episode. I'm not going to talk about anything more than that because so many people still haven't watched almost any of the series, but I figure that given that they actually did a full live premiere of the first episode with like a live chat and everything like that, I don't think it would be out of bounds to just talk about that. Now, I don't think I can show anything. Everything I've seen with people trying to show the show ends up with their channel being, like that stream at least, being shut down by Amazon, with them copyright claiming it and stuff like that. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to end up, like what I'm going to end up showing in the background, if I'm just going to have to like constantly have the trailers running, which won't really help when I'm trying to talk about specific issues with the show. But I took an hour or two and I basically wrote up my thoughts just on the very first scene of the very first episode. And yes, it took me an hour or two to put that together, even though the scene itself is only like 7 minutes long or something like that. So it's going to take me a while to go through the full thing. Now there is actually, and you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about the very first scene of the show. So keep in mind there's going to be some spoilers here. If you haven't seen this first episode and you want to go into it completely free and clear, then I'd recommend stopping now. But again, it's been out now for a few days and was, again, the live premiere. And I mean, it's not really even that big a spoiler. We're talking about the opening of the of Into the Fallout universe, the first day of the Great War. Well, really, the day of the Great War. So, sorry, opening this up real quick. Okay. So, okay, let me actually, I have a, I have a document where I wrote all this stuff up. There we go. Okay, so again, just going to be talking about the very first scene, and again, I'm not even going to show anything because I can't. You'll just have to either watch it yourself or just remember if you have seen it. So
For eyes that glow.
the
They believe
the setting itself is the afternoon of Saturday, October 23rd, 2077, the birthday party of the child Roy Spencer at his house in the hills overlooking Los Angeles, California. The characters are Cooper Howard, who is also later known as the Ghoul. He's a former Western movie star. Janie Howard, which is Cooper's daughter. Roy Spencer, which is the birthday boy. Bob Spencer and Mrs. Spencer, Roy's parents and the hosts of the party. And then there's Frank. And there's plenty of other parents, but Frank is the only other parent who is named. I gotta actually get on this because otherwise I'm going to run out of time to start this event properly. I really do need to get this done. So, basic plot summary here is the world ends in nuclear fire as the Great War begins, and it serves as an introduction to the character Cooper Howard, later known as the Ghoul. And so I've also written up a, that was again the plot summary, but I've written up the plot as well, including what I believe is the most important bits of dialogue. Let's see. Okay, gotta actually light the pyres now. Let's start at the river because the next event starts at the church. Okay. Cooper Howard, formerly a star of the stage and screen, performs as a cowboy at a child's birthday party, the party of Roy Spencer in the hills overlooking L.A. His daughter Janie is in attendance, not having been invited, but is there with her father as he works. In the kitchen, Roy's mother, Mrs. Spencer, prepares a cake for the party. As a nearby radio says, negotiations were scheduled to continue today as the White House has no comment about the president's whereabouts. Miss Spencer turns off the radio, takes the cake from the kitchen to the living room where the other parents are gathered around the news broadcast, where the news anchor says, "Between America and her adversaries crumbled this morning in Anchorage, Alaska. The specter of nuclear war facing this nation for 10 long years is final," and then she shuts off the TV. Got to get that last pyre here. We're good on time, though. There it is. And she tells the adults to focus on the party. Outside, Mr. Howard finishes his routine and puts Roy on his horse, Sugarfoot, for a photograph. One of the fathers, Frank, asks Roy's father, Bob Spencer, why Cooper is working kids' birthdays, to which Bob Spencer replies, what else? Alimony. So we have an implication there about the marital status of Howard Cooper there. Or Cooper Howard, sorry.
Let the dust and flame.
After Cooper takes Roy off his horse, Bob asks Cooper to take a picture with his wife. Cooper agrees. Then Bob presses him to give his thumbs up. She says, given the state of everything, he doesn't want to do it. Bob presses him on it, insulting him with, "It's what you're famous for." Mrs. Spencer urges him to stop. As Cooper makes for an exit, she hands him a check and moves the party off to have cake. Frank refers to Cooper as a communist by calling him Pinko, to which Bob agrees and implies hypocrisy on Cooper's part, saying he still took my money. Now, if you're unaware, Pinko is a it's a slur, I guess. I don't know, a slang term to refer to a communist. Anyway. While the party attendees sing "Happy Birthday" to Roy, Cooper packs up and Janie watches from the back porch. Roy takes a piece of cake and turns on the TV. The weatherman says the Los Angeles sunshine coming through. Then has a little bit of a breakdown, telling the station staff on camera, "Hal, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can't do the weather if I don't know there's going to be a next week." We'll talk more about all this dialogue in a minute here.
Let not your eyes deceive you. All you see before you.
Okay, thinning out the wave here. Oh, crap. Need to get to the bridge pyre ASAP. I may have just lost this.
These twisted shadows all serve the will of the false ones.
Uh-oh. Come on. Okay, come on, reload. Okay. Hopefully that just saved it. We'll see. Okay, we got it. That should be good. I should be able to defend it for now. Oh, it's done. Okay, get to the wider side pyre. Okay.
You must protect it.
Sorry, let's get back to the plot summary. Or not the plot summary, the plot. Okay, so in the aftermath of the weatherman saying I can't report on the weather next week if I don't know if there's going to be a next week, Roy's mother again comes over, turns off or changes the channel over to Grognak the Barbarian in the Ruby Ruins, saying we're only thinking happy thoughts today. Cooper comes over to his daughter, telling her that everything's packed up. Janie asks him why he wouldn't do the thumbs up. He initially responds that it's grown-up stuff before telling her the story behind it. He was instructed when in the Marines that if there was ever an atomic bomb, to hold up your thumb. If the mushroom cloud is smaller than your thumb, run for the hills. If it wasn't, it's too close to run. She asks her father if he thinks it's going to happen. He responds, I certainly hope not, but us cowpokes, we take it as it comes, right? Janie then asks her father for a piece of cake, and he goes inside to ask for her. While he's indoors, the first bomb hits LA. Janie compares it to her thumb and asks her father if it's her thumb or his as he returns with a cake. Seeing the cloud rising as smoke, he initially plays it off as a fire. As the mushroom cloud rises and the shockwave spreads, Cooper grabs Janie by the hand, grabs her as the wave hits and blows out the windows of the house. Pandemonium erupts in the house. Cooper carries Janie to Sugarfoot. The Spencers head for their fallout shelter. Bob punches Frank, the other father, as he attempts to join them in the shelter with his daughter. Cooper and Janie ride away from the party on Sugarfoot as other families attempt to get their cars and drive away. As Cooper rides away, 3 more nukes... Oh, failed that. Oops. It's alright. Again, I've completed it enough times now that I actually have all the lore that I need to get out of it, but my main goal with this one was simply just to go to this, dailies, complete the Mothman Equinox event. I'm just trying to get the treasury notes that I need, and I've been having a hell of a time getting those. I'm hoping there's a weekend event where they give us additional treasury notes and gold and stuff like that or whatever. But anyway, for the moment I only have something like 900 something. But anyway, okay. Back to the show. And again, we're only covering the very first scene here. So I've got a list here of the good, the confusing, the acceptably bad, the lore-breaking, and new lore items, along with the character building that takes place within the scene. So in the good things, there's excellent use of music, especially Nat King Cole's Orange-Colored Sky, song that was part of Fallout 4's licensed music. The costume design is great. They got 1950s cowboy stuff, suburban upper-middle class costumes, stuff like that. Set design with the proper appearance of appliances, modern home architecture, and by modern I'm talking about like 1950s home architecture, but of course with the Fallout retro future aesthetic to it. There's a Mr. Handy in the house. There's a general animosity to communism and towards suspected communists. All of it great for the scene and for the setting, I mean. There are amazing scenes after the bomb, including the fighting, the running, all of it with a mushroom cloud in the background. In terms of the confusing stuff, let me expand my view here so I can read this a little easier. Sorry, it's off screen here. Okay, confusing. So my understanding of the way that the public viewed nuclear war in the Fallout universe was that it's always right around the corner, but it's kind of one of those things where people are just kind of in denial about it, generally speaking. Like, they're getting shelters and vaults, they're building their own little shelters, but it's always one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's probably going to happen, but it's not going to happen today. You know, it's one of those things where it's probably not going to happen tomorrow, but sometime soon we're going to be hit. But that being said, in the show, it seems much more of an immediate thing where people are much more afraid of it. Specifically with the weatherman on the TV talking about, if I don't know there's going to be a next week, that sort of thing. It's a much more acute feeling than I've seen in previous Fallout media. Okay, the other weird thing that I noted here was China is not mentioned anywhere in this. And I'm still rewatching the show because I need to make sure that it's... I don't know if it's mentioned at all in the entire first season here that China was the enemy that the United States was fighting. There's definitely a scene where they say something about the Far East, but anyway. There is a general animosity towards communism, but I don't think that the enemy is actually mentioned. In fact, specifically, the news broadcast says America's adversaries, which there's only one that we know of, so I don't know what specifically they're referring to there. I couldn't find the road that Cooper rides off on the maps. I opened up Google Earth. I found the Griffith Observatory, which is in the background of that scene. I tried to use that as a point of reference to find the road. I don't think that the road exists. Which is not necessarily to say that it is like something where it's like they made up the entire area. I could easily see it being the case that in the Fallout timeline, where we are, what is that now, 60-something years advanced from, 63 years advanced from where we are in the real world. 53 years, wow, years keep on going. 53 years more advanced, it could well be that there are new roads in the area that don't exist now. And plus, it also doesn't really matter. I mean, the point of it was to show the nukes going off in the background as he's riding his horse with his daughter in his lap. Okay, acceptably bad stuff. As in stuff that doesn't ruin the show for me, but it's definitely not right. The way the first detonation acts is for dramatic effect. The initial flash should have blinded Janie, but did not. And it should have drawn the attention of the parents, or at least Cooper, but it did not. I think that the showrunners could potentially use the excuse that Bob Spencer's in the background constantly taking pictures with his flash to say, like, oh, they're desensitized to nukes, or to the flashes, but nukes flash way brighter than a camera flash, so that's not a reasonable excuse. The initial wave of radiation should have affected the electronics in the house. I'm not saying that it necessarily would shut everything down with electromagnetic pulse, but it definitely would have shown something and would have, you know, caused immense amounts of static on the screen at the very least, I would think. They didn't notice it, though. And the shockwave definitely took way longer to get to the house than it should have. That being said, I think that, given that it was done specifically for the dramatic effect of the show, being the first nuke that you actually see detonate in the show, and a show about a nuclear war and its aftermath, I think that that's reasonable. The later bombs, when they go off and you see them, do not have the same issue. They have their shockwaves go out normally. And then I got one other note here, which is I'm not going to criticize a child actor because they're children, and it doesn't make sense to criticize a child actor. I will just say that I thought it was funny that the little girl they had playing Frank's daughter, again, Bob Spencer, Roy's father at the party, the little girl they had playing his daughter did not even seem to acknowledge the fact that Bob Spencer punched her father in the face and knocked him to the ground. She's just kind of standing there. It's like, it's not important. It's a little thing in the background. Then again, she's a child. I'm not going to criticize her for that. I just thought it was kind of funny. Especially because, like, everything else that's going on in the scene is so chaotic. There's a nuclear mushroom cloud rising in the background and all this stuff. Okay. The one thing that I found to be lore-breaking and did think was something of a problem was the fact that the scene takes place at the wrong time of day. The bombs hit the East Coast. We know this from the switchboard in Fallout 4 at 9:42 a.m. That's when Philadelphia and New York City went offline. On the West Coast, that's 5:42 a.m. Okay, because we're talking 4 hours earlier with the time zones. This show, like the first scene here, takes place like in the middle of the day. So, which would make sense for a child's birthday party, but it does not make any sort of sense with the timeline, especially given that the bombs on the West Coast came down earlier than the bombs on the East Coast. So, yeah, that's definitely lore-breaking, and I wasn't thrilled about it. But again, it's one of those things where this did not ruin the show for me. And again, I like the show. Nothing has ruined the show for me. Again, this is one of the larger lore problems with the show. In terms of new lore, we got that this is the first evidence we've seen that there is any sort of peace negotiations taking place in the Fallout universe, specifically in Anchorage, which feels very right to me that the United States would set up the peace negotiations in a city that they had reclaimed from the communist Chinese. Where it's like, yeah, come on by. We'll talk in the place that you stole from us and that we managed to win back from you. But they're stymied because the American president doesn't show up, which it's mentioned on the radio previously. The American president, the White House is not commenting on his location. This is something that we've seen previously in the lore. The president was not at the White House. In fact, he was at the Enclave oil rig, the Poseidon Energy oil rig. And so in terms of character building, we have mainly this is just character building for Cooper Howard, later known as the Ghoul, which is he is formerly successful, having recently fallen on hard times. That's something that's easily obvious from the fact that they're surprised that he's doing this birthday party. He's a suspected communist. You can tell that from the fact that he's called Pinko. He's divorced from his wife. You can tell that from the fact that they think he's doing this for alimony money. And he's also a Marine veteran. We know that from his comment to his daughter about his training regarding the thumbs up, being something from when he was in the Marines. So those are 4 pieces of information we have on Cooper Howard just from this first scene. And again, I've started work on later scenes, but I'm not going to talk about them because, again, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. Again, this is the very first scene of the show, talking about when the bombs are first coming down. It's going to be something that happens. They basically showed half of this in the trailer for the show anyway, so I don't think I've ruined anything for anybody who hasn't even seen the show yet. So the rest of it I'll hold to myself. But again, that was like the first 7 minutes, and this episode is something like 115 minutes long. So it's gonna take me a while to get all this stuff together, but I'm definitely gonna do it for every episode. And I've already started to generate a list of questions in terms of like what I would want to ask the people who made the show, the producers that are specifically from Bethesda as well. And it's not, I've only got one specific question about this episode. I'm not going to list it because it would potentially spoil future episodes. But then I've got, again, that was only about this one scene. But there are already additional questions I have that I think are a bit more serious about some later stuff, which upon a second watching becomes an issue that you don't really notice on your first watch through. But once you know more about the characters, it starts to raise questions about their actions in previous scenes. So I think that's enough on that, though, because again, I'm not going to talk about future scenes or any further scenes than that. So in terms of upcoming content, again, I've shifted off this lore video, the Mothman Cult lore video, temporarily. And let me actually show you what I'm trying to buy here, just so you know what the current holdup is. Specifically, actually, there are 2 events I need to film, and I feel like an idiot because one of the events popped up last week, or not last week, but earlier this week while I was filming in Point Pleasant doing the Mothman Equinox event. And it was the event that takes place at the Landview Lighthouse, and I needed to film that because it's specifically related to the Mothman cult, and I didn't get to it in time, and then it was gone. And I've been playing the game waiting for that thing to pop up again, and I need to get that event recorded. Now, there's another event that took place at a location I didn't even realize had changed until I started filming for this content, and that's the Sacramento Glade. This used to be the Cranberry Bog, or sorry, the Cranberry Glades Natural Wilderness Area, or whatever. This is now a cultist site. And it's one where they are hunting down these large creatures to sacrifice them. So once that event pops up, I will record that, and I will get that footage so I can put it into the video. Let's go to Foundation so you can see specifically what I'm trying to purchase with gold so that I can record the footage of it. And this is something that slowed me down with the Brotherhood of Steel video too, if you don't recall that. But there's a... I can't even remember his name off the top of my head right now. We'll go to my camp and I'll find it. There is a light ally, Solomon Hardy. There's a light ally that is a member of the Brotherhood of Steel. He was originally a doctor, or he was a medical student, I believe, in Detroit before the bombs. Ended up hooking up with the Brotherhood Expeditionary Force as they were crossing the country, and that's how he got to Appalachia. You can bring him into your camp. It's the same sort of thing here where I had to buy that character with gold in game, so it took me a little while to earn that cash. In this case, I also need to purchase a character. Let's go take a look at that character now. Samuel here. Oh, wrong option. Trade gold bullion. Okay, so you can see I currently have 927 gold bars. And what I need is 4,000 for... Where is he? Stephen Scarberry. Stephen Scarberry is a character that's related to the Moth Cult. I need that character in order to put his footage into the video. So that's going to take me a little while to get that, especially when I don't have any treasury notes to trade for cash. And I keep doing these daily events, specifically the daily ops. I've been doing the expeditions. I just cannot seem to get my hands on any treasury notes. I got literally none yesterday in like
What the heck is a John anyway?
3-4 hours of playing. Specifically, I'm still waiting for those 2 events to pop up. The one in the Sacramento Glade, and again the one up here at the Landview Lighthouse. They have not popped up yet. I'm gonna keep playing until they do, and I'll record that footage.
Jen's got style.
But yeah, okay. So that's what's going on with the Mothman Cult video. I definitely think I've got enough now that I can put together the Point Pleasant lore video. I need to unfortunately rewrite that script. I lost the original one. If you're not aware, this is a remake, but I'm doing it in the current style of the way I do lore videos, not in the way I was doing it at the time. Love how you can just walk right through this needle. Anyway, and so I'm going to do that. I'm reworking the real world lore right now, looking at the Battle of Point Pleasant and all that kind of stuff. How Point Pleasant changed over time from a frontier town to being like a little industrial town to its current state where it's kind of a little tourist town on the Ohio. Along with that, I need to put together the in-game lore, which there's really not a huge amount. Most of it now comes from the Mothman Cult. There was at one point a group of responders there, but it never really turned into anything, and they really have never addressed it either. I don't know. Maybe they have at some point in some sort of inside the vault thing, and I've just never seen it. I would love to talk to some folks over at Bethesda about like what their plans were for Point Pleasant, if it was entirely always just going to be something Mothman related, because Point Pleasant is the home of the Mothman. But I don't know, because there's notes there that seem to conflict with other things that we know about the responders, but I just don't know. So I'm gonna have to definitely look into that more. Okay, so other than that, specifically looking at doing, I think the next thing I'll have to do after this is a Fallout 4 lore video, followed by a Starfield lore video. Then I'm going to do a Fallout New Vegas lore video covering RepCon, which I'll just no, I'm not going to say anything about that because I don't want to potentially spoil anything. So I'm going to keep working on the Fallout series one. I don't know when I'm going to release that specifically. I would say maybe like a month after the original series has, a month after the 10th was when it came out originally. So I guess May 10th, something like that. I don't know. I may only wait a couple weeks. One of those things where you kind of want to strike when the iron's hot, sort of a thing. I'm going to keep working on that, on doing a full in-depth analysis of the show and putting that together. Again, I don't know exactly what I'm going to put behind that, given what I've seen happen when people have used footage from the show. I don't know if I'm just going to have to basically have it on a constant running loop of the teaser in the background or something like that. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, so that'll be something that I'm working on at the same time. And then I've also decided that I'm probably just going to go ahead and use a website building service for the website, just because I don't have time to work on both videos and the website. So either I take a week off of video production and don't get anything done for the channel in that week other than the website, or I work entirely on videos and I never get the channel site done. Now, I did look at Squarespace the other day, and that does not seem like it's going to work for me. I have I don't know, at least a couple hundred gigabytes of footage now uploaded to an Amazon S3 web server right now. And from what I've seen with Squarespace, it's like, oh yeah, you can have, I don't even remember, half an hour of video footage uploaded with us. And it's like, wow, not even close to what I need. So, and it's also something I talked to their customer service, and I was like, so could I use my videos stored with Amazon? And they're like, no, you'd have to upload it to us. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So I'm gonna find something though, and if I don't, then I will potentially just take some time off and again work on the channel website. But I'd really prefer just to work on videos because I prefer that wholeheartedly to working on the channel website. Let's see, is there anything else? I feel like I've told you all most of what's going on right now. No, I was gonna say we go back to the base to talk about Solomon Hardy if I hadn't remembered his name, but I did. It's been crazy to see some people's responses to the television show. Like, there have been people that are just, like, utterly outraged by it, and I honestly don't understand it. I think part of it comes from people put up false information, and then people respond to the false information by getting even more angry. and then people respond to that, and it's like this kind of domino effect. But like, yeah, again, I don't even know how much I can talk about these controversies because while they are fake information, it is still something that would end up with me having to spoil the show in order to talk about the right information. So I think I'll hold off for now. I'll simply say there's a lot of fake information out there. No, Fallout New Vegas has not been made non-canon. Just do not believe that if you see that it's not a thing. That's just insanity to me that people think that. I don't know what that was all about. Again, there's definitely something related to a timeline they put up on a chalkboard that needs explanation, but no, Fallout New Vegas has not been made non-canon. Okay, well, I don't think that there's much else I have to say at the moment. Because again, everything's still in progress. I'd like to have that Point Pleasant lore video out sometime early next week. I was hoping to have the Mothman cult video done, but I didn't realize how much more there was that I needed to cover. I've recorded every single note, terminal, holotape related to the Mothman cult now that's in the game. Again, there's just 2 events that I need to cover. In fact, I can show you now specifically what was holding me up before, because for a long time there's which one is that, the mother or daughter, I can't remember. Is that Shannon or Olivia Rivers? Regardless, there was a point before where I was waiting on doing the Mothman cult video. I feel like this has actually started last summer is when I really started looking at doing a Mothman cult video, and I was held off of it because there was no Mothman Equinox event going on, and there are 6 tomes of sacred knowledge here within the church in Point Pleasant. I could not access 2 of them. Now, my understanding is that each one of these tomes potentially unlocks after you've done 5 iterations of the Mothman Equinox event. I have now unlocked all 6 tomes. Or it could easily be the case where it's a scaling sort of a thing, where the first one you have to complete the event once, the second one twice, 5 times, 10 times, 25 times. I don't know exactly what it is. Regardless, I now have access to all 6 tomes, including this one here. The first one over here is the one that, again, freaking vines. And now I'm jumping out of the roof. This is the first one that unlocks here on the left. If we come all the way around to the right, these are the last 2 that I did not yet have access to. You can see here that I have access to this one, On the Thesis of Dr. Wallace, as told by Wise Martin the Bearded, and this one, False Gods of Appalachia by Wise Nathaniel the Shadowed. This is something here that talks a bit more about things like the Interloper, which is good. I wanted to see more about that kind of stuff. So, again, that video is coming very soon. Once I get the rest of this footage covered, I wish that... Well, okay, I can give myself a little bit of an excuse here. The event that takes place down here at the Sacramental Glade did not exist when I was starting to look at doing a Mothman cult lore video. That was part of the Blue Moon event that also brought into being this new Blue Ridge Caravan outpost here at the Middle Mountain Pit Stop. I've done that event there as well. But I should have recorded the Landview Lighthouse event, and again, as soon as that thing pops up, I will absolutely get in there and I will record it. So once I get these 2 events recorded, once I get that that Light Ally Cultist, I will record that and we'll be good to go. But so again, next going to be a Fallout 4 lore video related to the Gunners, then a Starfield lore video, probably covering all the side quests within New Atlantis. And then I need to do the Fallout New Vegas lore video covering RepCon, and then after that I will probably come back to Fallout 76 to start covering Atlantic City. So with that said, I think that's enough. No comments today, so I hope you all have had a good week. I hope you all have a good weekend. I hope you, if you have not seen the Fallout TV show, you absolutely should. It's a great show. Again, some lore issues, one of which needs to be addressed directly by the show creators and the people at Bethesda, but other than that, excellent. So I hope you all have a good weekend, and I will see you all next week.